is this.
Yeah.
Zimbabwe has got a case study that South Africa should be using, like page for page.
Sure.
For instance, the Eskom story, it's told in Zimbabwe within the ZiscoSteel story.
ZiscoSteel.
Zimbabwe used to have the biggest steel and iron mill in the southern hemisphere.
Crazy.
In Brazil, there was nothing as big. In Australia, there was nothing as big. As the biggest in the southern hemisphere. This steel mill had the shareholding of Anglo America, the shareholding of Messina, the shareholding of ISCO, the shareholding of Lancaster Steel, and Voest-Alpine.
Hectic.
And it was huge. So it was creating steel for mining, steel for railway systems. The problem is Anglo did not like this power being in black hands. And number two, they had a company called Hagirandi that produces wire for mining shafts and elevators and mining business. The Zimbabwean company produced better steel at a cheaper price than Anglo. So Anglo, as a shareholder within ZiscoSteel, had the ear of the government of Zimbabwe, which was still new. We didn't understand the ways of the world. The CEO of ZiscoSteel was a white guy called Kuhn, who was coming from the Austrian company called Voest-Alpine that provided all the machinery at Zisco. So they listened to these guys.
Sure.
What they didn't understand is that these guys had a mandate from the US government and the British government and the Europeans to destroy this steel plant that was in the hands of blacks because it gave blacks too much power to industrialize with the biggest steel mill in Africa. So what they did is they started telling the Zimbabwean government that no, we cannot have two steel buying or two steel manufacturing companies in Zimbabwe. We can't have Lancaster Steel, which was Zimbabwean owned, British but Zimbabwean controlled, and then Hagirande, which was owned by Anglo America. So Anglo America said, no, let Hagirande be the one that exists. Let us buy Lancaster Steel. Their idea was to destroy Lancaster Steel, which was producing steel that was competing with them here, but more importantly, to destroy Lancaster Steel, which is the biggest buyer of ZiscoSteel steel, so that they can then break ZiscoSteel once they've destroyed its biggest buyer and its biggest sophisticator of iron. The Zimbabwean government, being gullible, this need for approval from whites, and the power that Anglo America had, because they had 35% control of the Zimbabwean economy, just like it has a 60% control of the South African economy even till today. So the Zimbabwean government listened to what Anglo said. They listened to what the CEO said.
You owe me. Sorry, please carry on.
So they did start destroying Lancaster Steel. They started sabotaging Lancaster Steel. When Hagirande from Anglo needed the price increases, they gave it. When Lancaster Steel said, we also need a price increase, they didn't give it.
Sure.
Eventually, Zisco then bought Lancaster Steel. The moment it bought Lancaster Steel, that same white CEO who was there, and I'm going to give you an example. This white CEO in my mind is Andre de Ruyter. Andre de Ruyter.
From Eskom.
They decided that he decided before he resigned that I'm going to give the contract to buy all of Lancaster Steel to Anglo America.
Sure.
He did that, he resigned, he left.
I wonder what Andre has signed now that he's resigning. We don't think of things like that.
We don't think of things like that.
Who is placed, what deals is signed,
you get it.
And then leave.
But do you get where I'm going with you?
And now you're tied. Whoever comes in is tied.
Do you get where I'm saying to you that Eskom shouldn't be happening if South Africans had sat down to study what happened with Zisco, number one? And that's just one issue. There's another issue. In